Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art and Scrap. It's almost Monday. Let's create. I am just getting everything situated and I just need to post a link. It wouldn't give me a link until we had started this evening. But yay, we are on we're on YouTube, and it actually worked today somewhat. So that is a great thing. Let me just get this. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm glad you are joining me. And we are going to be doing a double page layout. You might have guessed that from the expanse of the table here. But we're going to be creating a layout that is actually a layout that will be sent out to some of you. I believe it was for those of you who qualified for Kit of the Month in August. I believe August. So some of you might be getting this in the mail. So that's exciting. And so we're going to be using the Regal Winter Designer Series paper as well as the Regal Flora stamp set for this project. And so let's get started. We're also going to be using a couple of die sets. We're going to be using the mini alphabet dies, and we're going to be using the stylish shapes dies. Both of those. We're going to be using one of the smaller circles and also one of the banners for this layout. The Regal Flora stamp set has some gorgeous florals on it, as well as some lovely sentiments if you're creating a card, more so to a card than a layout. It's also got this fun sort of extra embellishy bit there. But we're mostly going to be using the images from this to add embellishment to our layout. We're going to start out with some basic white cardstock as our base. I've got 2 sheets of 12 by 12, and we're going to stick these down to the mats so that they don't shift about while we're doing our layout tonight, because we want to do some lining up and some measuring. And I always say there's nothing more intimidating than a blank sheet of white paper. Sometimes you just gotta throw some color on there to get things going. But instead of throwing color on there tonight, howdy Shannon, instead of throwing color on there, we're going to throw some black on there. So the first piece that I'm adding is a piece of black cardstock that has been cut to 9.5 inches by 6 inches. And I've already got some adhesive on here. So 9.5 inches by 6 inches, and we're going to stick this on 2 inches up from the bottom. And that's why we're working on our mats today, so that we can make sure we line things up. Now I'm going to do left side, right side. So I'm coming in with another piece that is 2.5 by 6 inches. And this is going to go on the right hand side. Hey Mom, nice to see you're watching. And again, we're lining it up at the 2-inch mark. That's why we wanted to make sure those mats weren't going to shift around on us. Just going to move that to the trash. Okay. Pardon me. Still coughing. It never ends. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to come in with one of our photos first, which is really unusual to start adding photos this early on, but I'm going to do it because I need to figure out where I'm placing other pieces. And this first photo of my daughter when she was very young, she was probably 2.5, almost 3, but closer to 2.5. And this one day we had done her hair in what we called bouncy buns. And she was wearing this cute little brown knitted dress, and she was just doing her thing because, you know, little girls do their thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some matting behind it. And I wanted to have a bit of pretty peacock in behind, but I didn't want just solid cardstock. So what we have here is the white, basic white, and then I have inked around the edges, and I'll show you here what I did for that. Let me grab another one and grab my ink. So we're going to take the pretty peacock, and what this does, yes, it adds the color, but it adds some interesting texture. And it's nice to add some interesting texture. And then we're just going to heavily ink the edges. Now, quite often we do what you see here, where it's just lightly inked. But I want to create this look. And to do that, we're going to heavily ink, and we're going to ink pretty far in, because this, this matting is 3 inches by 3 inches, but my photo is 2 3/4. So there's going to be a lot of the matting showing around the edge, but I want to create a really textured edge, and something like a sponge works for that, because you get sort of the swiping, but also some of the dabbing, and it creates just a lot of texture as well as the color. So we're just gonna get all the way around like that. Now, I've done all the rest already ahead of time, so we don't need to sit and watch me do that. But, oh, I just threw away the photo I wanted? Yes. So, Julia was being a bit of a ham, as per usual, and so lots of cute little faces. So, we're going to go ahead and stick our 2 3/4 inch photo onto our 3-inch matting that we have now inked with the pretty peacock ink. And we're going to attach it to our layout at about 1/4 inch below, so about 1 3/4 inches up. And we're going to shift it in from the edge just a smidge so that we get that black cardstock showing along the edge. Now I can come in with my designer series paper, the DSP, and this is one of the beautiful ones from that Regal Winter collection. It's got some gorgeous florals all over it, and this has been cut to 8 inches by 2 inches. So we're going to go ahead and take the backing off. I pre-adhesived, trying, because a double page layout takes a hot minute to put together, and so I wanted to make sure that we didn't take up too much time with the adhering. So I'm going to set my ruler going across at 2.5 inches. And this piece is just going to ever so slightly tuck under that matting, just ever so slightly, just so it looks like it goes right under there. And then we're going to line it up along the 2.5 inch mark all the way across. Okay? Now we're going to come to this side, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add one of our photos, which is this one, whoops, of Julia. It looks like she's doing the head and shoulders, knees and toes. And you may notice that there is a large space over here that's just blank wall. And you know what? Sometimes when you take photos, that's what happens. But I'm going to use that to my advantage. And I'm going to actually add a piece of cardstock on here to do my journaling. I had thought about typing out the journaling on the computer and having it actual printed on the photo, which is a very cool technique, but I think I want the handwritten version of the journaling. So I will be doing that later. You won't see me do that on camera because you always got to think about what you're going to write and, you know. So this is a not quite 4x6 photo, but the mat is 4x6 or 6x4, pardon me. This is, again, 1/4 of an inch smaller. So I guess that would make it 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. And again, I did the inking on this one. So we can go ahead and stick this one down. Like so. And again, we're going to stick it down at the same spot. So 1/4 of an inch below, leaving a little bit of that black cardstock showing. But then we're going to bring in our ruler and lay it again at 2.5 inches all the way across so that we can bring in another piece of the gorgeous DSP, the designer series paper that has been cut to 4 inches by 2 inches. So if you add these two pieces together, I'm pretty sure you get the full 12 inches. Let's just double, yes. So this is a good way to kind of spread that across with only having to cut one 2-inch strip. And then you just separate it and spread it apart. So we're going to kind of tuck again under the edge of the photo mat, just a smidge, and stick that down like that. And now it looks like we have a strip that kind of travels all the way across, other than this little gap here in the center. But our eyes will kind of fill that in and make it look like it's okay to be like that. Alrighty. Now let's add the rest of our photos. Why don't we? Okay, so over here we've got another one of Julia's hands on hips, giving me a funny look. There's those bouncy buns. When she was little, I used to be able to convince her to let me do her hair. And when she first started using pigtails and then, then bouncy buns, it's basically you make pigtails, but then when you go to pull it through, you don't pull it through all the way, so it makes like a little loop. And so we call them bouncy buns. So again, this is a 4x6. And we're going to go ahead and stick it down here. We're going to leave a same amount of gap between the edge and also between the photos here, like that. And then one more photo on this side. There's the back view. You can see of the bouncy buns there. So cute. Again, hands on hips. She was so sassy. Maybe still is. She looked really good in brown, though. Some kids don't look good in brown. But I think the red hair definitely worked with brown. So she actually wore a lot of brown when she was younger. Brown and pink, even though a lot of redheads can't pull off pink. If you mix it in with some brown, it works. It's a little trick. Alrighty. Then we're going to add our photo here. We're going to drop it down so it's just a little bit above the DSP. And yes, there's a little weird gap here, but that's okay. When we get to the embellishing, we're going to hide that little weird gap. So just don't worry about it. Don't let it bother you. Let's add a couple more photos, though, to finish off this side. And we've got there's a close-up of the buns. And again, these are 3x3 photo mats. So the photos are 2 3/4 inches. There we go. And let's stick this one on this side. Like so. So we're leaving, again, the same amount of gap around the edges there. And here's one where she was like doing like a pirouette. She had, the fingers on the top of her head and she was twirling around. And I must have been sitting on the floor or something to get that kind of angle. It's actually a really fun angle when you're taking pictures of kids, to take it from below looking up, because it makes them look bigger. All the time we take photos of kids when we're standing high and looking down on them. And it's sometimes fun to take photos looking up at them, or straight on. A lot of people take the photos straight on. That's very common. Alrighty. My photography inclined husband told me that. So there we go. We've got our photos on. Now, for a little bit of embellishing, we want to add something to break up all the straight lines. We've got a lot of straight lines, and we want to bring in some more of the greenish color here. And so from the Designer Series paper, I have cut 4 stitched circles using the dies, and then I've cut them in half. So this was a 1 3/4 inch circle, about that, and I have cut it at just a smidgen more than 3/4 of an inch. Or cut it in half. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to add them just below our DSP here. We're going to start right at the end, and this is going to create kind of a scallop. And the circles for this came from those Stylish Shapes dies, and I used the, let me see, the 3rd smallest circle for that. And we're just going to line them up, nestled right against each other. I did, when I cut this in half, because this is the DSP that has sort of a little plaid on there. This one's a bit crooked, but I did try to cut them so that the design was straight and not too off, but you know, you do your best. Nobody's going to sit here with a ruler and try to figure it out for you. So we're going to put 5 of these half circles over here, and if you're good at math, you will know that means we have 3 more. So we're going to have 3 to put on the other side. We're just going to lift up our photo there, tuck that under. So let's grab our other ones to go on this side. And it's always best if you start at the end and work your way back in, because excess we can tuck under. But if we get to the end and it's too long, then we got to chop something, and it just looks a little nicer to have that full half circle right there, at least in my mind. But you can do you. And then our last one. So like I said, this is one of the kits of the month that's going to be going out. And I have been doing that every month as a nice little thank you to those of you who place orders of $60 or more during the month. And so that's exciting. All right, so we've got that lovely scallopy thing going on. Now we're going to add some flowers using the Regal Flora stamp set. So let me just scooch this one out of the way. We're going to bring in the stamp set and a piece of basic white cardstock so we can do some stamping, and a stamp block. So let's grab this large floral here, and we're going to stamp it in both Night of Navy and in Cherry Cobbler. Oops, I dipped that in real good. So there's a Night of Navy. Just going to grab my stamp and scrub. There we go. You know, we're going to leave that there because we're going to need it again. And then we're also going to stamp in the Cherry Cobbler. Like that. And let me just show you how gorgeous those look. They have sort of gradient stamping without you having to do anything extra. Pardon me, hiccup. There's a little bit of outline on there. Aren't those just lovely? Let's give that a scrub. And then we're also going to do this larger one that is a cluster of 3 flowers that are a little bit smaller. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ink it up. We're going to stamp it in the cherry cobbler. Give it a little scrub. And, oops, pinched my shirt in the Stampin' Scrub. And then also in the Night of Navy. There we go. Now, I'm pretty sure you can buy dies that go with these stamps. However, you know me. I save my die money and buy more stamps. So I did not buy the dies that go with this. But the die set has extra things that are not in the stamp set. There's some lovely, interesting shaped frames, and so it would be definitely fun to have, but I did not purchase. All right, now we're going to grab this little leaf cluster here. There we go. And we're going to stamp it in Pretty Peacock. Ooh, I dosed that one. There we go. We're going to use our Stampin' Scrub a lot because we're switching colors. You don't always see me washing stamps, but tonight we are. And then also in Shaded Spruce. Better close that up before I stick my hand in it. So Shaded Spruce. And these are all coordinating colors with the collection. There we go. And then one more image we want to stamp. And that is this leaf cluster right here. It's a kind of a different shape. And I may have run out of room. So let's just grab an extra piece. Just so we don't overlap anything. Probably could have been a bit more efficient with that. I'm going to stamp in Wild Wheat for this. And that's the color you can kind of see peeking out there. There we go. Wild Wheat. Wild Wheat is one of those colors when you first stamp it, doesn't look like the color when it's dry. So don't be shocked. That's okay. All right, and then we're going to do some fussy cutting or die cutting. So we're going to go ahead, go around the outside, leaving a halo of white just as if it were die cut. And for something like this where there is sort of shading and outline and gaps, you definitely want to leave the halo. Don't try to trim right on the line. That will just be uber frustrating and unnecessary. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and trim those out. And I have done some ahead of time, so you don't need to watch me fussy cut. Although I know that some of you love to watch fussy cutting, others don't. So let's bring in our second page, our right side layout. There we go. And we're going to add some of those florals. So here we have a nice cluster of the cherry cobbler, those 3 together, which is super fun because it's really easy to get them in there. And we're going to overlap right over top of that gap. There it is, hidden away. Nobody needs to worry about it now. Then let's bring in a Night of Navy single flower. I'm only adding adhesive in the center. And what that allows me to do is I can go ahead and tuck things underneath. Then let's grab one of these florals. I think this one was Shaded Spruce. Put a little bit along the stem. And we can tuck that right there. Yes, it's covering a little bit of my photo. I'm okay with that. And here's one in the Pretty Peacock. Just a little bit along the stem. And tuck that in under there, like so. Then let's grab a cluster of the Night of Navy. And there are actually a few different colors in this collection, so you could definitely kind of pick and choose which colors you wanted to stamp the flowers in. I'm not saying it has to be done in these colors. Alrighty, let's add another cherry cobbler under there and one of our wild wheat leaf clusters. Just tuck that in there right like that. And then one more, and this is a shaded spruce. And we can tuck that one under there. Sometimes you have to lift things up, but that's okay. The liquid glue helps with that. And there we go. And then let's come over to this side. We've got a couple things we're going to do here. I have gone ahead and cut a whole bunch of 1/4 inch by 4 inch strips of designer series paper. If I could pick up the, if I could pick it up. And most of these are actually the back sides of the patterns. So here's what the patterns are. And then on the back side is just more sort of floral texture and color. And what we're going to do with these 4 inch by 1/4 inch pieces, we're going to add a little bit of adhesive to these. Like so. And then we're going to kind of create a design with them. So we're just going to lay them on here. We're going to overlap our photo a little bit. And these, if I can pick them up, are going to create kind of a fun pattern and fill in some space because we have a lot of white space over here. On the other side, it was kind of filled in with the black cardstock. White space is nice, but it's also fun to have a little bit of a pattern going on, don't you think? And so we're just kind of randomizing the colors. So we're not going to put 2 colors right next to each other. We're leaving a little bit of a space in between, about 1/8 of an inch. And we're also staggering the placement so that they're not just all in a straight line. We want to create a little bit of interest with this. There's the wild wheat that we used in the stamping. Make sure I only got one here. And as we go, we can see how many, because I've forgotten how many strips there are. It's 4 so far. Here's number 5. There we go. I think there's like 13. I think there's a baker's dozen. 13. These could also be used if you didn't want to add color. You could add these as journaling strips. But I kind of wanted the color. Oops. So we're just going to add those on there. Kind of got a blob of glue on that one. We're going to try and keep them straight. And here's a purpley one. I think that's the Blackberry Bliss. That's in this collection. So not really a purple, but a very pretty color. Purpley. Plummy. Kind of a plummy. Back to the wild wheat. It just takes a minute adding all these strips, doesn't it? And the good thing about this is that the edges of my photos don't have people in them. If you had, say, photos with a lot of people and you didn't want to cover them up, then just shift this a little over to the right and just have it kind of stagger in the empty space. It doesn't have to overlap. We're getting there. Just a few more. Anybody counting? What are we up to now? There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, I was right. A whole baker's dozen. And the last one. Ending with a cherry cobbler. There we go. Okay, put the lid. Actually, no, let's not put the lid on because we're going to bring in some more of the florals. Here's one of the Native Navy clusters. Let's add that in. Maybe this way. There we go. And one of the cherry cobblers. Just tuck that under there like that. Some wild wheat. A little leafy cluster. Like that. And a navy one again. Let's add some leaves. Let me see. That would be the shaded spruce. Whoops. Spun that flower right around. And then pretty peacock. It's filling in good, I think. Now what's left is we need a title. And so for my title, I'm going to be using the Stylish Shapes dies. This sort of wider, short banner, but I've trimmed it because I only wanted a single dovetail. So I trimmed it at, I believe, 1.5 inches. I'll double check that. And then also the mini alphabet dies. So the banners I cut from Cherry Cobbler cardstock. And I trimmed them to, 1 3/8. So you can see the nice little stitched edge on there. Perhaps you'll see that if it'll focus. Trying to get it to focus, maybe. And in the cherry cobbler. So let's go ahead. We're going to attach these. And we're going to start right in this corner here. And we're going to try and line them up straight-ish. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach one letter to each of these little banners to create our title. I could make this as a little swag or something, but I'm going to just stick with putting it in a straight line, hopefully a straight line. Here we go. Last one. A little bit of cardstock dangling off that one. There we are. And I decided to cut out the word beauty. So let's get our letters on there. And then we're going to need our tweezers to help us with these. And these seem to be just the right size, those mini alphabet dies. So to do our gluing of our letters, we're going to need some tweezers and some liquid glue. We're going to do the trick where we put just a skiff of liquid glue on our hand. We're going to tap, tap, tap. We're going to tap off, and then we're going to stick it on. We're going to try to center it. Here we go. Tap, tap in the glue. Tap, tap off. And I thought about sticking the letters on first and then applying the banners, but I thought, you know what, if I can at least line up the banners, then I'll have a better chance of lining up the letters. So we'll see if that theory proves right. A little extra glue for the last couple. There we go. Lovely, beauty. Now, if you want, you could add some bling on there. You're definitely going to want to add some journaling. So I'm using the spot on my photo there for some journaling. But that is our completed layout using just a plain white background. But we added on that black cardstock, the photo mats that were heavily inked in the pretty Peacock to create that fun pattern. Then adding on the designer series paper, and then the little circles that were cut in half to create a scallop. Adding on our beautifully stamped florals. Aren't those gorgeous? Oh my goodness, such a pretty little cluster that those create. Then of course we have our banners with our title and a few extra strips to bring in even more colors from the collection over here, creating this really fun pattern. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this layout come together. I hope it inspires you to create one of your own. And if you do, post a picture of it. Now, some of you are going to get this exact layout, or at least the pieces to create this layout. You can finagle them around, and I would love to see what you create when you get your kit. So have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again soon. All right, toodaloo, bye.